Hi everyone, it's Sheena and welcome back to Peerless Prose. I've just got a short video today. I want to show you some of my top 10 favorite classic books because I've been reading a lot of classics in January this year. So without further ado, here they are. They're kind of in ascending order, but not really. It's sort of vague, but the number one book is definitely my favorite. Number 10 on my list is Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. I read this as a kid. I really enjoyed it. I was maybe 10 or so when I read it, and I read it twice in the same summer, which is pretty unusual for me. But it's really good, very adventurous. Tom is definitely a great prankster, as I'm sure most of you know. At least if you're American, he's definitely part of our popular, not really popular culture, but our collective history as Americans. Definitely really good for kids to read. Number 9 on my list is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. I read this about 3 years ago and I absolutely loved it. I love travel and history, and it's got a lot of adventure. The characters run into all kinds of trouble and difficulties on their journey, and they just manage to get into all kinds of funny situations and weird situations. And just when you think that everything is going to go horribly wrong for them, they manage to pull themselves out of it. So that's another really fun book. My number 8 book is Girl of the Limberlost by Jane Stratton Porter. I got this for a college graduation present from one of my cousins, and it's really good. I really identified with the character. It takes place in Indiana in the United States, and it's about this girl who has a very humble upbringing, but she works really, really hard so she can send herself to school. She's trying to get away from a really bad family situation, and it just has a really good wrap up and resolution at the end, because through her hard work she's able to get what she wants, and then eventually she's able to also reconcile some of her differences with her family as well. One of my other favorites is Robin Hood. This particular retelling is by Sarah Hawkes Sterling. It was written in the 1930s, and this one is, it follows a lot of the original myth, but it's also got some twists in it. It's very good. I found this at a used bookstore, and it's a lot of fun. It actually has some scenes from the 1930s movie on the inside. But I really enjoyed this. I was an archer myself when I was in middle school and high school. I did that through 4-H, so this was a book that meant a lot to me as a kid. My number 6 book is Dracula by Bram Stoker, and this copy's been through the wars. It came back from my roommate and I from England, and I really love this book. It starts off kind of slow, which I think deters a lot of people, but if you can make it through to about the halfway point, it all of a sudden gets really good after that. My number 5 book, I don't have a copy of it actually. I talked about it in my very first video, which I will link up here, I guess, and that is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This copy right here is actually a short story that eventually became the novel, which is called Sarah Crewe. But I read this so many times as a kid. This is probably the book that I have reread the most in my entire life. I've lost track of how many times I've read it. But Sarah Crewe meant a whole lot to me growing up, because she was this kid who was kind of isolated and was able to escape into her imagination, and that was something that I did a lot myself. So this is one of my all-time favorite books. Number 4 on my list, I don't have a physical copy to show you. This is one that I read on my Kindle, and that is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I've read the entire Three Musketeers trilogy. The first book is still my favorite, and I love these books because Dumas has a really fantastic sense of humor. He gets his characters into all kinds of crazy, ridiculous situations. They've got a lot of witty banter, and those are 2 of my favorite things to read about. Number 3, I have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I love this copy. I just got this recently from Half Price Books. It's so pretty. And I love this book. It's all about like female friendships and sisters standing by each other. But it's just a really great read. It can get a little bit preachy at times, but I tend to skim over those parts. Anyway, my number 2 book is one that I just finished recently, and it is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This is a collection of short stories. I don't usually read short stories. I mentioned that right at the very beginning of this channel, but I absolutely love this short story collection. She goes from super creepy to super sweet, and it's absolutely seamless. She's a great feminist author, and I absolutely love the stories that she tells in this collection. I've never had a short story collection where I loved every single story, and that was the case with this one. My number one favorite book, out of the classics at least, is Jane Eyre. And this is another book about someone who was very hardworking, had kind of a rough upbringing, and then was able to pull themselves out of it and make a good life for themselves. This copy that I have right here is actually kind of funny because I was at Half Price Books and I saw, oh, it's so pretty, it's my favorite book, and it's got this like gold leaf on the cover, it's great. And then I got it home. That's not in English, that's Dutch. But it's still one of my favorite books, and I'm kind of starting a collection now of Jane Eyre in foreign languages and different copies that I just really like because it's one of my favorite books. Those are my top 10 classic books of all time. If you've got any questions, if you like some of those choices, or if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share. And I will leave all of my social media links down below, as well as the Goodreads pages for all of the books that I talked about. So I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.